Tracking 2 tropical disturbances right now, another one possible for next week, and an exceptional amount of rain forecast for some of our area. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hello everyone, my name is Rusty McCranie. I'm a television meteorologist with 25 years of experience, and I welcome you to my channel, Meteo Mundo. Coming up in this video, we're going to be tracking 2 disturbances, one off the coast of Florida, another one emerging into the southwest Gulf of Mexico, another tropical wave for the Lesser Antilles and the Caribbean coming up, and an exceptional amount of rain for some of our area and some good thunderstorms on this Friday afternoon. So what do you say we get started right now? We'll begin with our invest area here just off the coast of Florida and Georgia. This is the live look here at Meteo Mundo of the radar data, the satellite data, any lightning strikes you'll see. The numbers are the wind gusts at the hour. Now I've been tracking this invest area the last couple of days. We're pretty close to whatever this is going to end up becoming, moving inland either in far northeast Florida or probably Georgia. The Hurricane Center continues to monitor this. They are finally beginning to see a closed circulation, and you can see that on the visible satellite imagery right now. They haven't pulled the trigger on a tropical depression, but they could. It would be a very weak system, and really, whether it's a depression or just stays a disturbance, appreciably the impacts are going to be no different. We're going to see some spiraling bands of rain coming in here to the South Carolina, Georgia coastline. Some wind gusts, 30, 35 miles an hour. Yes, it's kicked up some surf and sea conditions, but again, there's very little wind near that center of circulation. So if the Hurricane Center is going to pull the trigger, it's going to have to be in the next couple of hours here, certainly before midnight as this moves on shore. But it's been a fairly squally day for the Carolina coastline through Georgia and North Florida. Again, surf conditions are up as well, and you can see it is bringing on some wind, but this is going to remain a very weak system. But it's not out of the question that we end up getting a tropical depression out of this, so interest in this area want to monitor that situation. Now, to the south of this, we're beginning to feed in some moisture in this very broad cyclonic twist. So for our friends in the northwest Bahamas, we're starting to see a few storms percolate on this Friday afternoon. Again, a couple of lightning strikes here for Grand Bahama on over towards Abaco. A little bit of wind, but nothing too fresh even over West End as the storms move through. They're spotty, but they're also producing a bit of lightning at the hour, so boaters want to be aware of that as well. But again, we never really had the full impacts from that invest in the northwest Bahamas. It just has been so weak and so compact. Again, it's really just impacting some areas here within about 50 to 100 miles of that center of circulation. There's been a few bands of rain that's moved back over central Florida. Now, the other story as far as any tropical development is going to be in the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico over the weekend. You can see the huge blow up here on the visible satellite imagery. It's a little bit clearer to see if I switch over to the enhanced imagery. This is going to be on the heels, of course, of Tropical Storm Alberto, the very same locations. First of all, it's been cats and dogs rain for portions of the Yucatan and Central America again for today. They're going to get more rain in North Mexico, which they don't need. This should be a little bit more compact system, but there is that opportunity again for development into a potential tropical storm over the weekend. The wind field is not going to be as elongated, but still the northwest sides of the Gulf of Mexico could start to see some tropical storm force gusts, if nothing else. You can see some of the oil platforms and the buoys out here have already been reporting a few gusts that, have clipped that 35, 40 mile an hour range already. Now that's outer bands, haven't wrapped back into this circulation, but over the weekend in the far, far southwest Bay of Campeche, we could get a little bit of development. So if we do, of course, we've already wiped off the A named storm. Second named storm of the season is going to be Beryl. And again, we're not going to get that out of the system just east of Florida and Georgia. Not going to become a tropical storm, but potentially Beryl in the southwest Gulf of Mexico over the weekend. Now we're going to get started with what's happening across our area right now. And let me tell you something. We have some prolific storms to talk about on this Friday. As we get started, I'd like to do a like challenge. And what I mean by that is as I zoom into the areas here, island by island, and talk about your forecast right now, if that is where you live or an area you have interest, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and I'll go back and see which areas had the most likes at those certain timestamps. So I appreciate you liking this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe as well. So my friends in Jamaica, Give me a thumbs up right now if you're interested in the forecast in Jamaica, and it has been a pretty nasty forecast. First of all, we're really seeing some hefty storms developing here on the western side of the island near Montego Bay. Look at that blow up of storms there, even as far east as Mandeville and Maypen. I want to show you here, I'm going to bring back on the wind gust data because that is a 47-mile-an-hour wind gust at Montego Bay at the hour. So we've had some really heavy downpours, some very strong storms here. You can see that 47-mile-an-hour wind gust, and it's fairly island wide. It's not as prolific in the eastern side, but even Port Antonio got some storms. Kingston kind of wedged in the middle, but I hope you've got some rain, but certainly some big time activity for Westmoreland and Hanover parishes and Savannah Lamar and Negril, back inland as well, St. Anne, Trelawney, areas like that. Again, it's almost island wide, quite honestly. Mandeville and Maypen, those black areas are indicative of very high cloud tops and the embedded nastier storms. You notice all of the lightning strikes near Montego Bay. Those have kind of raced off towards the west, which then brings in our friends in the Cayman Islands, which have been hammered for today as well. So very interested to hear from my friends in the Cayman Islands and Jamaica what you've seen. I know it has been a wet, stormy day. Watch out for some localized flash flooding. Just a tremendous amount of tropical moisture in this area and some very windy conditions as well. Grand Cayman, Georgetown area had a 36-mile-an-hour wind gust, and again, the 47 there in Montego Bay. Rough weather across Cuba as well, a ton of lightning. And again, this is the lightning count in just the last 15 minutes in this view, and you can see those storms are really ramping up there as well. We've had a few scattered showers over portions of the Turks and the Caicos, a couple of isolated showers and storms over the central and the southeast Bahamas, not as prevalent here. We're getting a few more storms developing in Hispaniola at the hour. Again, I do expect a little bit drier air to move into this area, but at this point in time, it's still a pretty stormy afternoon. No wind gusts to mention here over the last 6 hours of any big significance. But you can see again, the lightning is beginning to develop here towards Samana, trying to drift down towards Azua and Santo Domingo, La Romana, Punta Cana, all with the opportunity for downpours. Now, again, it's going to be very location specific, but there's that opportunity. And again, you live in the Dominican Republic, would love the thumbs up. I appreciate you. It's been a windy, it's getting to be a pretty stormy day across Puerto Rico, especially the southwest sides of the island here. First of all, we've had a fresh wind, 25 to 30 miles an hour, and that includes Fajardo, Ponce, San Juan, Aguadilla. So basically across the island here, look at those storms getting going at the hour here on our satellite data. I'll move over to our radar data. We're going to take a look at the live radar out of Puerto Rico. And again, we've had some heavier rain on the western sides of the island, Uti Alto, but especially towards Mayaguez. There was a flood advisory, including the Mayaguez area here for portions of southwest Puerto Rico. And again, that's kind of an urban and small stream localized flooding event, but really nasty storms over the Mona Passage. It's just a very active weather day again across this area with some very gusty winds. Now, generally speaking, the farther east that we go, we're going to have lower rain chances. So pretty nasty storms over Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. It's been much more isolated across the Virgin Islands at the hour. St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, on over towards Road Town there in the British Virgin Islands. And again, that extends into the northern side of the Lesser Antilles as well. It's been much drier here for the day. Let's go ahead and throw on. What do you say we bring on the we'll bring on the temperatures first, I believe, here, and then we'll take a look at the wind gusts. So let's bring on the temperatures. You know, not a horrible day, upper 80s, lower 90s in Fahrenheit. The wind gusts at the hour don't look to be appreciable. Feels like temperatures right now in this area between 100 and 105 in a couple of spots. I'm bringing on the feels like temperatures because, again, unless you catch a shower today, it's going to be pretty hot, and the haze and the Saharan dust is going to play a factor. So from Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe South, Dominica, Martinique, on over towards St. Lucia, it's been a dry afternoon. Same thing for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Barbados, sunny, hazy, hot, humid conditions there as well. Grenada. Now we get down towards Trinidad and Tobago, and at least the opportunity for an isolated shower. But generally speaking, it's a drier day. There is a tropical wave not far away, which was going to have some impacts for the Windward Islands. And I've got more on that coming up here in just a little bit. On over towards the ABC Islands. Oh, I hope you guys have caught a shower. We've had at least a little bit of cloud coverage today, especially over the Curacao area. You see just a little bit of lightning. If you live in Curacao, you've had a little bit of that rain. First of all, thanks for hitting the like button, but let me know if you've actually had some of those showers and storms. It's been a pretty rough afternoon over the northern sides of South America. The storms have been a little bit more isolated today across Central America. We'll talk about that coming up. There's actually an area of high pressure that's developed here in the eastern side of the Pacific, and that is actually driving in more northeast winds. It's a little bit drier air today over Nicaragua, Honduras, Costa Rica, and Panama. When you get up towards El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and the Yucatan, we're still in that fresh area of tropical moisture. So we've still had some wet weather. It's been another cats and dogs rain kind of day for Cancun and Cozumel. It's so amazing how we've gone from drought conditions to seeing some potentially very heavy rainfall. There was some flood advisories for central and northern Belize as well. This is an area that's had a ton of rain lately. So down towards Orange Walk and San Pedro and Belize City and San Ignacio, additional showers developing there. Again, might be a little bit more scattered at the hour, but there's still certainly a ton of tropical moisture which will be spiraling into this area with the Central America gyre still in play. And again, that's going to lead to potential development in the Southwest Gulf. So I mentioned the Saharan dust. This is a very broad perspective. Notice that the main development region in the Atlantic is kind of inundated in that dust. And we have another plume that's kind of sneaking through portions of the Lesser and Greater Antilles as we speak. Fairly rich plume of Saharan dust there on the southern sides of Florida through portions of the Bahamas. So the potential for a little bit of haze in that area as well. But again, certainly the plumes of dust are impacting the tropical waves trying to develop here in the development area of the Atlantic. But there is one next week we'll talk about that could be a little bit more significant as well. But the dust does play a factor in this. So I tell you what, let's get started right now with your forecast. We'll take a look at the GFS model. Again, if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, I appreciate that if you want your latest forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas. So let's get into our invest area, and then we'll take a look at the Southwest Gulf of Mexico. Again, over the next 5 days in this area, it's really about what's going to happen tonight and overnight. And you can see on the GFS model, everything stays very, very ragged. Again, this is going to be a weak system, a very small system. The biggest impacts, quite honestly, are going to be with your surf and sea conditions. Now over to the Bahamas, again, we are still pulling in some south winds. The interesting thing is the impacts of what we're going to see are going to be directly related with that area of low pressure, but we could also have some moisture kind of moving in here where I do expect a better chance for some rain, especially on Sunday for the Northwest Bahamas and then carrying into portions of early next week. And this feature becomes an interesting one as it tries to slide up towards the Bermuda area here by midweek. And we'll look at that coming up as well. But you can just see that there's a little bit of a convergence here. And so we're going to see better rain chances for the Bahamas in general starting late Saturday, but especially on Sunday, pretty much chain wide here, northwest, central, southeast Bahamas, even down towards the Turks and the Caicos. And then this feature, although it's not going to be anything that wraps up into a tropical system, it's going to be kind of an elongated area. This is going to spread some of that heavier rain back up towards Bermuda here as we get into Tuesday. So Bermuda's rain chances will be going up. Again, there's a very broad cyclonic system right now. That's why we're seeing kind of on the east side of that gyre. And that's why we're seeing all the heavier rain for the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, and Cuba right now, but a piece of that breaks off and heads up north into the east. Now, again, the other area I'll be watching for potential development, this one has a much higher chance, A, to become a tropical depression, but B, to potentially become our second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. We'll take a look at the wind fields out of this in just a second as well. But again, as far as the rain goes, look, this is more than likely going to wrap up very close to the Mexico border. It's going to be relatively short-lived. Alberto was short-lived, but this one, if it becomes Beryl, even just a tropical depression, might even be shorter-lived. All the models take it into North Mexico. Look, they don't need the rain. They're already having some flood issues and land and mudslide issues from the remnants of Alberto and what it left behind. There's not going to be a ton of rain for Louisiana and Texas. Really, it's South Texas, all the way Corpus Christi south. as you get down towards Harlingen and areas like that with a better opportunity for a little bit more rain. But even there, the northern extent of it is not as expansive as Alberto was. So this is mainly going to kind of stay into Mexico, to be quite honest. Let's go ahead and take a look real quickly here at the wind data out of this. So let me switch on over to the winds. Actually, let's take a look at our surface winds. Those are gusts, which are fine, but I'm gonna load up the surface winds as well. And a little bit clearer to see if I drop off the development zone area here. So again, it's very easy to see on the GFS model that as we move into the weekend, we take some of that wind that's right over the Yucatan right now, and we try and wrap up a system in the very far southwest Gulf of Mexico. Notice it might spin around for 12 or 18 hours and then move inland. So again, this is gonna be a short-lived system, but potentially wraps up enough. We either get a tropical depression or a tropical storm. But again, impacts for Mexico and potentially far south Texas, but mainly for the northern sides of Mexico. Okay, back out to the big view here. Let's, again, swing this back into motion over the next 5 days. For our friends in the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, boy, things don't really change much. Again, the GFS has been a little too weak on the tropical moisture that's been in play. But that being said, it stays a relatively wet forecast here. I'm expecting downpours every day, especially through the weekend. Could be slightly drier on Monday and Tuesday, but still a good chance for rain for my friends in Port Moore and Spanish Town and Kingston and Montego Bay. Then on over towards Georgetown there, Little Cayman and Cayman Brac as well. Again, we're going to dry out slightly for the Dominican Republic and Haiti over the next couple of days. Again, decent downpours for today. This is Saturday and then into Sunday, not as much. Late Sunday, maybe a few more storms, and then potentially getting back into a more active pattern Monday and Tuesday. And that's with the next tropical wave that we're going to have a lot more of a discussion about in a bit. So kind of, you know, hammock, meaning that your storm chances are higher at the beginning of the forecast, at the end of the forecast, and much lower chances in the middle there. And that's generally over the weekend. This is going to be true as well for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, where we'll have decent chances for rain the remainder of today, lower rain chances over the weekend. Again, a bit of Saharan dust that comes into play as well, and then better rain chances Monday and Tuesday, but not as high as areas off towards your west. This will be a little bit of a drier forecast overall, including the northern side of the Leeward Islands. So Anguilla and St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat and Saba, St. Bartholomew, Barbuda, Antigua. We're talking about a 20% chance for rain every day. At this point in time, not really wanting to up that because I don't think it's warranted. Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique in the same boat. We get down towards St. Lucia and especially Barbados, St. Vincent the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago. This is an area with our next tropical wave where we're at least going to have an opportunity for some better rain chances late weekend, early in the week, especially down towards Trinidad and Tobago. So this is our next wave. Look, it is going to be influenced by our Saharan dust. It's still relatively prominent, but I promise you it would bring more widespread, heavier rain to a greater area if the Saharan dust wasn't impinging it on the north. Now it's going to drive some rain into portions of South America for Guyana and Suriname and Venezuela as well. We can see that. But again, what I'm going to be interested in is what happens to this tropical waves as it gets into the central portions of the Caribbean, because that's going to be a story in and of itself. But as far as the rain that it's going to bring, it will bring some higher rain chances Barbados south, mainly during the the early part of the week. There's additional rain and some tropical waves behind this, but again, the Saharan dust is still a factor. And how far north in latitude do we lift all of this? I feel like a broken record. I've been mentioning here the last couple of weeks, but that's really been the pattern with these waves. Have been pretty far south in latitude. ABC Islands, I hope you get clipped by some of these showers. Again, that opportunity will be there. It's about a 20% chance each day. Now, again, slightly drier overall for Central America, but again, it's all relative. I mean, we have seen inundation of rain and flooding each and every day. The general trend is that we have this little area of high pressure that's developed off the Pacific coast, which could dry out some of the area. But again, there's still a lot of green on the map. There's still going to be some extremely heavy rain, especially along the Pacific coastline. We might get a little bit of a break along the Caribbean coastline. But that being said, this is still going to be a very active wet forecast overall. So let's break down the rain chances for you here over the weekend. For my friends in the Northwest Bahamas, 40% chance today, a little bit drier tomorrow. That feature moves in on Sunday up to a 50% chance. It's a little bit more prominent in the Northwest Bahamas, so I'm going to keep the central and the southeast Bahamas a little bit drier through the weekend, but improving rain chances starting on Monday. Turks and Caicos, scattered showers. Still a wet, stormy forecast for our friends in Cuba. Again, the very heavy rain in the Cayman Islands for today. Still a very high opportunity for showers and storms to be developing over the weekend there. Belize City, Cancun, and Cozumel. Yes, these are lower rain chances than what I've had, but it's still 70 to 80% chance for some rain in your area over the next 3 days. Jamaica, solid 60% chance for rain throughout the remainder of the weekend. Again, more prominent in the afternoon hours, but some heavier rainfall is likely. After today, the Dominican Republic dries out over the weekend. Higher rain chances early next week. That is also true for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Bermuda, low chances over the weekend as well, but again, higher midweek with that next feature. Anguilla, Saba, Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, just a 20% chance for showers over the weekend. Slightly higher beginning on Sunday for places like St. Lucia and Barbados. You can see the farther south that you go in the island chain, the rain chances go higher. We're up to a 50% chance for Trinidad and Tobago on Sunday. Rain chances improve in South America as well for Guyana and Suriname. And then the ABC Islands, again, is just about a 20% chance for showers and storms. Let's take a look at the waves in the area as well. So for our boaters, again, still going to have some fresh easterlies, and that next tropical wave is going to bring in a surge of wind as well. So the bottom line is it stays a pretty active forecast here. Obviously the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico and some fresher winds along the east coast of Florida and portions of the Bahamas as well. Those are some of the areas that I'm going to be monitoring here for having some pretty significant wind and waves over the next several days. But relatively speaking, area-wide, that is going to be a factor. Okay, let's get into now the potential areas that we're going to be looking at for tropical development over the next week. Now, we've really highlighted the two that are already on the board. The one here that's going to sneak into basically Georgia or North Florida coming up. Again, with this one, and I'll go back to the beginning and I'll take off the tropical formation area because it's just a little bit easier to see. Take a look at the model. There's really no spin up whatsoever. And then it just kind of meanders. There's a little bit of wind energy, but that's about it. More than likely, it's a really low chance they're going to make a depression. We've already talked about here in the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico, there's a wrap up and then moving in. So now we're looking at these 10-meter winds. And the reason why I wanted to bring this back onto play is I did want to talk about this next tropical wave, okay? So with our next tropical wave, that's going to be moving through generally the Windward Islands. So let's kind of stair step this out. As we get into Sunday, you guys see just a little bit of energy of the winds kind of hugging the coastline there between Trinidad and South America. As we get into midweek, some of that energy moves into the Central Caribbean, and there are at least some signals with some of the global models like the GFS and the European of trying to potentially get another wrap up here in the Central Caribbean midweek. All right. If nothing else, there's a heck of a lot of wind that comes along with that next tropical wave. But again, there's something extremely wrapped up here, but it's just something that I've seen and I wanted to highlight that more than likely we're going to get into a little bit quieter phase next week, but not completely quiet. This is an area to monitor here as that next tropical wave comes through. So that's what it looks like on the surface winds. What do you say we took a look at that vorticity product I'd like to show you guys as well? This is going to be the spin in the atmosphere. And I like to look at this because, again, it helps to point out the areas within all of that wind field where there might actually be a little bit tighter rotation. So what we're looking for here, obviously, is that spin feature. And it's just going to take a second for the model to completely load here on the GFS, but you can clearly see it just a little bit. Nothing that's very tight at this point in time, but there's a little signal there, and I'm going to show you the European model coming up as well. But there you go. It's a little bit more smooth. If I just kind of rock this back and forth, you can see some of those twists right there. See that twist as we get into Thursday and Friday? That's one to monitor maybe for Jamaica and the Dominican Republic and Haiti and the Cayman Islands. We'll see how that plays out. Now, I mentioned that feature up towards Bermuda. So again, coming out of the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, right there, you can see that spinning up as well. It's actually pulling in some moisture from the east Doesn't look to be tropical in nature, more elongated, but it's going to bring some wind and rain there. I love this because it's almost like fluid dynamics, guys. It's like fluid dynamics in the atmosphere where we're looking at these perturbations and these spin-ups. And it's really cool to see when we kind of could take this 7-8 day window and take a look at it. Obviously clear to see what's happening in the southwest Gulf of Mexico on this as well. Now, everything I've shown you is the GFS model. This is the European model. You don't see too many L's on the map, but some of the ensemble members of the European model, and this is going to be next Thursday, do try and develop an area of low pressure in the Central Caribbean. It is something that I'll be monitoring for you guys. And it's as simple as that. So let's now take a look at the rainfall, because I mentioned how there could be a tremendous amount of rain in your area. It's not just the next 5 days. It's not just the next week or two. We're going to take a look at the next month and a half, and you're going to be shocked at some of the totals that we're going to be looking at. But in the shorter term, here on the GFS model, and let me get back over and we'll take a look. And again, I can kind of pinpoint this. Hopefully, this probe works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. Here's the bottom line: the Yucatan, Belize, and again, yep, it'll let me stop it there. It bullseyes potentially over 7 inches of rain for portions of Belize. And there have been some flood warnings from the northern side of Belize into the Yucatan into Mexico. And again, heavy rain across this entire area, the Pacific side of Central America, inches and inches of rain. San Jose, this is the next 5 days, guys, maybe another ½ foot of rain there. Obviously, there could be some extremely prominent rain with what could be Beryl or a tropical depression moving into North Mexico. They already have flooding issues here. It could be another potentially bad situation for those areas if we do get another ½ foot to a foot of rain. Bad scenario there. On over towards the Cayman Islands and Jamaica. Again, the GFS model is underdoing it a bit. You could get this in 1 day if you get some of the heavier downpours like you had today. Same thing for the Cayman Islands. It's just one area that I haven't really bought the GFS model. Again, scattered showers for the Bahamas, from Walker's Key to Freeport, down towards the Turks and Caicos and Georgetown there. There's Turks and Caicos. Georgetown is in the Bahamas. Sorry, guys. And then into portions of Hispaniola. You can see the scattered showers here. A little bit drier, but still pockets of heavier rain possible there. And again, we do dry out a bit for Puerto Rico and the northern side of the Lesser Antilles. And then the farther south you get in the island chain, the higher rain chances we get, the heavier rain. Trinidad and Tobago, few inches of rain possible there. Barbados, a little bit more than an inch, and then drier towards the north. Boy, it just feels like there's this bullseye of missing rain here for the ABC Islands, but unfortunately that could absolutely hold true. You can see Bermuda gets into just a little bit more rain there. Nothing too crazy, but with that feature. So obviously it's still Central America and the western sides of our area with the prominent rain. European model bears that out as well. Look at all of the red over the next 7 days. It has a bit more for the Cayman Islands. It has more for Jamaica. It has more for Cuba. I agree with all of that. Based on what I've been seeing and what's been happening, I absolutely agree on that. But again, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, 75, 100, 150 millimeters of additional rain over the next 7 days. But this isn't the only thing I want to talk about here, guys. I'm going to get my telestrator ready because I want to show you this. This is the European model. This is their 46-day outlook. Okay, I know we're talking about a month and a half, but this is your rainfall anomaly through August 5th. This is not how much rain is going to fall, but how much more or less compared to average your area is going to see. Take a look at all of the blue. Now, the top of the scale goes to 125 millimeters, and this is in millimeters, okay? But that is not what I want to point out here, okay? Hopefully I can get this illustration to work. If you look at the bottom of your screen, oh, what am I talking about? I can't telestrate on this. I was literally trying to draw on my map. Let me get myself off camera. Look at the bottom of your screen. Do you see where it says max 945? What that is saying is there are some areas on this map that could potentially see 945 millimeters above average rain the next 45 days. That is nearly 38 inches of additional rain above normal. And obviously, where you see the brighter blues, those are the areas with the opportunity. That includes pretty much all of Central America and portions of Mexico. But there are even some higher, 100, 125 millimeter above average for the northwest side of the Caribbean, even portions of Hispaniola and Jamaica. Now, it's a little bit drier off towards our east. You can see that, but we're not in any one huge area that's exceptionally dry. The ABC Islands would be one area that you can see it. But I just wanted to mention, because I feel like every day I come on here and I talk about you're going to get this much more rain over the next week. And I promise you there's more to come after that. But the longer term European model spells a tremendous amount of rain for our western areas for virtually at least through the middle or the latter portions of summer. So something to certainly keep an eye on, friends, indeed. You can keep an eye on us across all social media. I appreciate you. Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, mymediamundo@gmail.com. If you want to send me a picture or a video. Thank you again for liking and subscribing. Friends, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.